With a storied history dating back to 1921, member-owned Naperville Country Club has long been a jewel in the suburbs west of Chicago. But by 2004, Naperville's golf course was beginning to lose its luster.
We were on sort of, I'd characterize it, the thin edge of disaster.
The club sits on a relatively small 124 acres. Limited space, combined with rolling terrain and mature trees, created difficult playing conditions.
Out of the 35 or 36 full shots on the golf course, over 2/3 of those were either blind, semi-blind, or uphill shots.
You would have a guest out and say, see the branch of that tree, aim it at that, draw it 5 feet. They'd say, well, what happens if I hit it to the right of that? Oh, that's not good. You don't want to do that. There's a water hazard over there.
And the irrigation system was becoming deteriorated. The pump system was obsolete, antiquated. The bunkers weren't as good as they could be. There's always the quest for more length on the golf course.
We needed more parking. We needed an area if we wanted to add amenities. Our driving range was too narrow, too short. It was in danger next to the 16th hole.
These shortcomings are common at many older golf courses. But key members at Naperville understood the dramatic effect that not acting might have on their club's future.
Naperville Country Club is essentially a golf club. We don't have a pool. We don't have tennis court. We do have fine dining, very nice clubhouse and all that sort of stuff. But our real asset was our golf course. And we had to bring it up to today's standards to be competitive.
The club contacted Arthur Hill's Steve Forrest and Associates, an architectural firm that they'd worked with successfully in the past. Naperville's first idea was to do a quick fix to resolve the club's most glaring issues.
They had done a survey of the membership, and as is fairly typical, the 2 or 3 things that they wanted to do was upgrade the quality of the bunkers, lengthen the golf course where possible. They did have one liability issue here with the practice facility. It was narrow, too short, so they wanted us to address that. And that was about the limit of their vision, frankly. We came on the property, saw the tremendous beauty of this property with the rolling terrain, the water features, the mature trees, and we had a vision that was quite a bit bigger than what the survey said.
The limited plan was rejected by Naperville's membership. But instead of giving up, club members like David Tierney realized what was at stake. And after hearing Steve Forrest's vision for a more comprehensive renovation, they decided it was time to act.
We're talking about a club that had been in existence for over 80 years. We want to be in existence for another 80 years or more. It was time for change, and so a number of us sat down and said, this is foolish. We can afford this. This is an opportunity for success to ensure that Naperville Country Club and this prime real estate doesn't just become another housing development.
Committed club members moved forward with several clear objectives in mind.
We wanted to do it right. Being under construction is bad for club morale. The faster you can get it done, the better off you are. We wanted to do it in such a fashion that when we got done with the renovation project, that the golf course and its environments would look like it had always been that way. The money aspect was really the 4th priority. And that's a little different than the way most people start looking at renovations. They look at the money first instead of the outcomes that they want to achieve.
For the architectural team, the first step was to formulate a master plan to elevate Naperville Country Club's course to its full potential.
And it will address various items from tee improvements, certainly, green improvements. Are they built according to USGA specifications? Do they drain properly? Are the bunkers in the right place? Is the course as long as it can be relating to the technological advances in golf today? Is the irrigation system functioning properly and efficiently? Are the irrigation reservoirs large enough to hold water? Is there a minimum amount of evaporation loss in that reservoir?
And Steve had the plan in his mind. He spent countless hours out here walking the property. Tweaks here, tweaks there.
He was able to make use of a very small piece of property, utilize it in a much more efficient manner than it was originally laid out 80-some years ago.
We get all of this information on a plan or in a supporting booklet that gives the club essentially the vision. It's kind of the picture frame or the frame around the picture. This shows you what you can have. And then you can talk about the implementation. Do you do it in 1 year, 3 years, or 5? And there's certainly advantages to doing it as quickly as possible.
Once the vision was in place, it was up to both leadership and the architect to get the entire membership on board.
I would tell anybody doing a renovation project, the more you can communicate with the members in as many ways possible about where the project is, the better off you are.
We had a number of town hall type meetings that we did with the membership. Steve was always available for those. In this particular case, with the rerouting of the golf course, it was difficult for many of the members to visualize or see the layout of the new course. So we would set up pylons out in the golf course where the new holes would be and go on walking tours, and Steve would host some of those walking tours with groups of members through the golf course. So that was a very important part of getting a favorable vote from the membership prior to the renovation project.
When it came to financing, the country club leveraged its most valuable asset, the land itself.
The asset that we have is the acreage that we sit on. I think it's fair to say when we did our bank loan, we had to get an appraisal of our property. Conservatively, it was $40 million. Rates were down. It was an advantageous time to move. We were looking at interest rates of 6%. That's pretty cheap money historically. It stayed that way during this period of time. But in the long term, that's a nice source of capital. We had a $40 million asset to put against that. We ended up borrowing $8.5 million. Our debt-to-equity ratio is very manageable. The average term of a member at a private club, I think, has gone down from 10-plus years to more like 8 years. People move. They don't want to be burdened by the debt of a golf course that is a 20, 25, 30-year project. With a payment of just about $50 a month, we could afford the better part of this project. Now, in the end, we had intended to borrow about $7 million. When we went through exactly what we wanted to do, we added in more scope than we had originally thought, and we brought it to about $8.5 million. But today, our membership is paying about $155 a month to the capital budget. That amount of money will actually grow with inflation at 3%. That's not inconsistent with dues at a club that typically go 3 to 4% per annum. I think you'd find that as a national average.
This lease-to-buy approach is augmented by a 15% draw from initiation fees and some private gifts from members.
And we will be able to pay off the $8.5 million in somewhere between 16 and 20 years.
In order to get county approval and permits for the renovation, Naperville had to implement a design that would maintain a floodway for water runoff and preserve the club's wetlands.
We rerouted the floodway on the golf course. We added fill into the floodway on the golf course. To be able to do that and to disturb some existing wetland areas through the course of the project, we had to mitigate at 1.5 times the wetland areas that we disturbed, and we did more than that. And really the key focal point for the county, which is who we permitted through, was that we had to show an overall watershed benefit for this particular branch of the watershed that we're in.
And so we did aid the environmental aspects relative to flooding downstream. We also created several acres worth of environmental habitat that is off limits to the golfers. If they hit their balls in there, they drop another one and proceed forward. So that serves as a filtration system as water runs off of the golf course. This filters it before it goes into the groundwater and into the overland flow. Provides habitat for birds and other animals. It's aesthetically pleasing. You've got the aroma, there are flowers here in the wetlands. So there are a lot of benefits to wildlife with the environmental features that we were able to incorporate.
When construction was completed, Naperville Country Club's golf course reopened as a more efficient, ecologically sound, and player-friendly course.
Could we attract new members with a brand new golf course? And the answer is a resounding yes. We've added over 30 members right now since September of last year. They are thrilled. It's heartwarming to see the juniors out with their parents playing where they can go up and carry their little golf bags up to their own set of tees and say, "Dad, Mom, these are my tees. This is where I get to play." That's the future of the club.